Hello, everyone. Welcome to JP Catholic's Faculty Spotlight. I'm your host, Josh Resnicek, and with us today we have Chris Riley. Chris is a professor of film and screenwriting at JP Catholic. Chris worked at Warner Brothers for 14 years, right off the bat, the start of his career. And then since then, he's been writing screenplays for studios. He's written Redline, he's written a web series called Bump, and many other screenplays for studios. So Chris, you're a professor of film at JP Catholic.
I am.
And I hear you have a very specific definition of what story is. So could you teach me? I'm a student.
Sure.
Teach me. Yeah.
Right. So you could imagine all kinds of different definitions for what is a story. I just have a simple, practical one, which is a story is a hero's struggle against an obstacle to reach a goal. I find that definition, which comes from veteran TV writer Bill Idelson, to be a really practical way to think about story from the point of view of somebody who's creating a story, also from the point of view of people who have to fix stories that aren't working. But I think it taps into the universal experience we all have of being people who are struggling every day against obstacles to reach goals.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it has that element of simplicity, but also of connection to the audience.
Yeah, I think it's meaningful even though it's simple, and I tell students it is as powerful as that simple equation of Einstein's E equals mc squared.
So you have this universal principle of story that you teach: heroes struggle against an obstacle to reach a goal. How has your understanding of that sort of changed with or has it with all of the new media? Now that we have web series, you have shorter bits of content, we have YouTube videos telling stories. There's all these changes in the industry with regards to digital media. So how does that affect your understanding of that definition of story?
So I think that definition is as timeless as human beings and doesn't change with the technology we use to shoot a story or the technology we use to distribute that story to the audience. What does change is the access that storytellers have both to the means of telling stories and to the means of getting those stories to an audience. And they also change the access of the audience to a much greater breadth of stories because they're coming from essentially everyone to everyone.
So what does that definition look like with the web series that you wrote with Bump?
With Bump, we used a classic story design, which was we had characters who had a goal and they were struggling against all kinds of obstacles. Those obstacles were based in the reality of those characters' experiences. Well, that is a timeless and classic way to approach storytelling. But what was new about that was we were doing this on a digital platform, a web series that invited the audience then to talk back to us. Because it was a series, when we first started offering episodes out to the audience, we hadn't figured out what the ending was, specifically because we wanted audience feedback to inform where the stories went. And so we asked the audience to share their stories with us, and then all of the writers took all of that in as we crafted the final episodes of the show.
That's really interesting, because I was actually going to ask what, because with a movie there's kind of one solid arc all the way through the movie, but
Yeah.
with a web series it's like you have one story being told over several episodes, but then you have also episodes that kind of need each their own story.
Well, and with really short storytelling like you get in short films or in web episodes, you are creating installments that need to be satisfying in themselves, and so they need to have some of that hero goal obstacle structure, and you need to get to at least an intermediate goal that's satisfying within an episode, but then you've got this overarching goal that drives the whole series, and that's what keeps you coming back for more, as well as your love for the characters.
Would you say it's more challenging to write stories in that shorter form, like you're saying, to give it some kind of interesting element to it in a shorter story versus like in a feature?
I think for me, it's harder. And I require students to write lots of short scripts. And the secret is, and we won't tell anybody, I don't really write short scripts. I write long scripts, and it allows me time to tell the story I want to tell. And I really am in awe of some of the great work that I see students doing in short form. When we crafted Bump, we had to figure out how do you especially do a pilot episode of a web series when you have 5 or 7 minutes to create a world, to introduce your characters and bring everybody in and have some sort of sense of completion. That is a particularly challenging storytelling problem.
So there's an article that was published recently. I think I'd shared it with you.
Yeah.
And it was on kind of how, with all the digital platforms and everything, we're kind of approaching this golden age of storytelling. What's your kind of take on that idea that we're approaching a golden age of storytelling because of all these different platforms to view things on?
Technology is allowing many more people to tell stories, and it's allowing the audience to be much more selective. You don't just watch whatever is on because it's 8 o'clock on a Thursday night and you've got 3 or 4 networks to choose from. And the mindset behind those legacy networks is leading to very safe kinds of creative choices, and the audience steadily declines. Whereas the audience is building for other digital platforms where there can be more creativity and frankly more meaning. There's more interesting stuff, and I think we are in a golden age of creativity, especially in television.
Yeah.
The downside of so much content is it's really tough to get noticed. And what that then means is if you want to get noticed, you've got to tell stories that do connect with people, that do offer them something fresh that they haven't seen 1,000 times before, executed with great skill. And I don't think that you're seeing that coming from everybody to everybody. You're seeing still a smaller number of people who really master storytelling for the screen, and it's those people then who have the opportunity to be discovered, to find their audience. I think it's true. I don't think you can be mediocre, and people are not going to virally promote something that was like so fantastically mediocre. What you tell your friends about is something that blew your mind, and so that's the bar. The bar has not gotten lower because
because anyone can do it.
Yeah, just because anybody can do it. For a long time, anybody has been able to pick up a pen and put it to paper, but we haven't been reading their novels. And we're reading the novels of people who were great storytellers, and we will continue to tune in to the stories of great storytellers, regardless of the technology we use to get there.
Thank you for joining us today, Chris. Thank you for a great interview.
It was fun.
So good luck teaching the students. Teach them well.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for joining us. If you like this, subscribe to the channel. We have lots of other videos and video series coming out. So stay tuned, and thank you for joining us.